Pope St. Leo the Great became the Pope in the year 440. He was a tremendous administrator of the church in so many different ways. He was very, very conscious of himself as Pope being the successor of St. Peter. And he often referred to that St. Peter was the foundation, the rock, as we just read in the gospel, on which the church would be founded, and his successors would continue that teaching of Peter. And so Peter's confession of faith today, that you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, are words that Pope Leo would have taken very seriously as his own words. He faced, first of all, a number of heresies that were going about in the church at his time, and he fought strongly to teach the truth to the heretics as well as to all those who were listening to them. The heresy of Arianism was one of the worst, and he wrote prolifically and preached about the incarnation of Christ. Arianism denied the divinity of Christ, and he worked so hard to point out the truth to the church that Jesus is both God and man incarnate. The barbarians were attacking Rome, and Pope Leo stood up against them as a peacemaker, working hard to bring about peace, which did come about. And finally, in his pastoral work, he was so keenly aware that spirituality was so important. Some people complained, as they do today, that the clergy are perhaps too worried about the administration of the church and its structures and so forth. But he was adamant in the fact that it's all part of the mission of the church. That the mission of the church is to bring people closer to Jesus Christ. And so, spiritually speaking, we must preach about him, teach about him, encourage people to stay close to the Lord. At the same time, the church structures, the buildings and so forth, have to be cared for, because it's here that the work of Christ continues. And so he's always had a balance between all those things. Ultimately, it was all centered on Jesus. It was all centered on people growing closer to Christ. So Pope St. Leo is a great, great saint. As we read in the book of Sirach, that his wisdom has lasted for generations and generations. I just read this morning a little bit about his life, saying that his famous sermon on Christmas is still available. So I'm going to look that up. You might hear it on Christmas this year. See what he had to say. So we give thanks to God for all the many great saints who were very human. He did not deny humanity. He was not an angelism kind of person where the soul's more important than the body. The body and soul were all redeemed by Christ. And we live in this world in our bodies. And it's through the bodies and souls that the Lord has given us that we grow closer to him. And so we thank God for his witness, and ask him to bless the church today with continued great governance. Let us stand and offer our prayers and petitions.